My mom abandoned me at my grandparents' house when I was 8 because her new family needed space, and now I'm asking them to leave my house. Let me start by saying my mom kicked me out to impress her new husband. If kicked out sounds harsh, let's say she removed me from my own home and sent me to live with my paternal grandparents. I have fond memories until my dad passed away. Unfortunately, we lost him when I was 7, and as a child, I was devastated. I was very close to him, and seeing him off in a coffin broke my heart. I still remember that moment vividly, and it saddens me to this day. While I was still processing the loss, my mom showed up with another man and insisted I call him Dad. I was like, no way. I don't know if I was right or wrong, but it just didn't feel right calling him Dad only months after my father's death, which I now think was too quick on her part. After that first meeting, I often found him in her bedroom, and it was hard to see how fast she'd moved on. She didn't even wait a year before bringing my dad's replacement into our home. I wasn't ready to accept him as my dad's replacement. I just turned 8 when they planned their lavish wedding, quite extravagant for a second marriage. Anyway, it's not my business. She left me with my grandparents while she went on her honeymoon. A month passed, but she didn't show up. I kept asking my grandparents when she'd come for me, but they had no answer. Then one day she appeared. I was so excited to see her after so long and ran to hug her, but she'd brought all my belongings to abandon me at my grandparents' house. I was heartbroken, to say the least. I lived with them through high school and was happy there. My mom would occasionally visit, saying how much she loved and cared for me, but when I asked why she abandoned me if she loved me so much, she had no answer, brushing it off with excuses like, "Your grandparents are getting old. They need help with groceries and taking out the trash." It was much later that she admitted the real reason. She'd given my room to her husband's kids. Bill, her husband, had 2 kids who moved into our house after their wedding, and she prioritized her new family over me. Naturally, I felt resentful and eventually stopped bothering her. After high school, I left my grandparents' home but visited often. They were my saviors, raising me when my childhood could have been ruined. Now I'm 24, and after working a year in marketing, I decided to start my own business, needing capital to do so. I thought about renting out my house. Oh, if I didn't mention earlier, here's a surprise for my mom and her lovely family. The house they live in belongs to me. Yes, that's right. My dad made a will on his deathbed, leaving me every penny he had, including the house. I was a child when the lawyer read it after his funeral, but from my mom's expression, I could tell she wasn't pleased. I later learned she tried multiple times to contest the will but lost every time. My dad had made it airtight, specifying the house was mine, though I could only sell or rent it after turning 21. Until then, no one could touch the property. My grandparents believe he foresaw my mom's plans, which is why he made the will so strict. Otherwise, she might have manipulated me as a child to give up the house. Last month, I called my mom to inform her of my plan to rent the house, but she didn't answer. This week, when I visited my grandparents, I told them I planned to earn extra money from the house. They had an odd reaction, and when I asked what was wrong, they said I might not face much resistance evicting her because her stepdaughter is pregnant by a teenager who's run off, and Bill lost his full-time job and is working evenings at a store, so they're in financial trouble. I didn't know what to do. I need the house too, having quit my job to start my business. Update 1. Things got dramatic from where I left off. As I said, my grandparents told me my mom and her family are struggling, so they might not vacate my house. I decided to inform her of my plan and give them a few months to sort their lives out. Initially, I considered a 1-month notice, but knowing their situation, I thought 3 to 4 months was fair. Since she wasn't answering calls, I went to see her. The house wasn't the same, and neither was my mom. Both felt cold. Maybe she sensed my intentions. Seeing me at the door, she gave a fake smile and a half-hearted hug. despite it being a long time since we'd seen each other. Yes, she visited me occasionally after I hit my teens, and yes, I'd grown bitter toward her. Why wouldn't I? Even after years apart, she didn't bother asking how I was, showing no interest in my life. It was like, "Oh, you're here, it must be important." The people pleaser in me said, "Oh, nothing big, just came to see you, it's been a while." She smiled and said, "Sure." Awkward silence followed for 5 minutes until I got up to leave. It was unpleasant, I didn't feel welcome at all. Besides my mom, her pregnant stepdaughter was there, giving me dirty looks like I was there to cause trouble. For the moment, I dropped the idea of reclaiming the house and explored other ways to fund my business. But my mom crossed every line of narcissism. Last week was the 15th anniversary of my dad's death, and my grandparents held a small prayer ceremony at church. Since I was in town, I decided to make it special, feeding the poor and giving gifts to underprivileged kids. I invited friends and relatives and emailed my mom an invitation, but she didn't reply. When I checked the email history, I saw she hadn't opened it, my first email to her. Thinking it might have gone to spam, I went to her house again. This time she wasn't home. Her stepdaughter Brenda answered with no greeting, just, "Back again? What's up?" I said I was there to see my mom. She replied, "After how she talked to you last time, you think she wants to see you?" Her bluntness stunned me, and I blurted out I was inviting my mom to my dad's prayer ceremony. She laughed in my face, saying, "That was ages ago, still hung up on it? Move on." I said, "Excuse me, he was my dad and it's not your place to comment." She rolled her eyes and went to her room. I stood there like an idiot for a few minutes, then left a note asking my mom to call me. She called the next day and I told her about the ceremony. She was silent for a minute, then said she couldn't come because she had to take Brenda to a checkup. That stung. She could have said she'd try, but dismissing it outright was disappointing. I replied sarcastically, "Yeah, of course she's your priority, we're nothing to you. Good luck raising that narcissistic woman and her illegitimate child." She was furious at that word, saying, "Why should you be kind when she was so rude to me?" She defended Brenda, saying it was natural for her to be upset, that I shouldn't talk about the dead in front of a pregnant woman, and that I was as heartless as my dead father. That made me lose it. I yelled at her not to speak ill of my dad, that if anyone was heartless, it was her. She said, "Your dad died 15 years ago, get over it." I shot back, "Sure, like you did in weeks, maybe days, who knows? You know what? Don't come. My dad wouldn't want your prayers after seeing your true colors." I hung up. That day, I hired a lawyer and started the process of sending a legal eviction notice. It took 15 days to validate my dad's will and send it to her. As expected, when she received it, she panicked, never thinking I'd go this far over her missing my dad's ceremony. I laughed at her voicemail and blocked her. When she couldn't reach me, she showed up at my grandparents'. I wasn't there. I'm living with them again until I reorganize my life. She begged them to convince me to withdraw the notice. My grandparents, kind and calm, said it's my property and I can do what I want. Fair enough. She didn't like that and blamed them for raising me spoiled. Really, what was she on when she said that? I asked my grandma why she didn't stand up to my narcissistic mom, and they said they didn't want to deal with a woman like her. I said, "I do, and I'm not letting them live in my house another day." I issued the eviction notice per the country's tenant laws, though they're not tenants. They pay no rent and I cover the property taxes yearly, so I'm legally entitled to evict them immediately. My God-fearing grandparents convinced me to wait. Otherwise, I was set to throw them out that day. The next day my mom called. I ignored her just as she'd ignored me. She texted saying we needed to talk urgently. I replied I'd check my calendar to see if I'd be at my grandparents'. That didn't sit well, She sent a long message accusing me of lording over her. What did I do with her 5-paragraph email? Nothing, I didn't reply. Maybe she got the hint I wouldn't bow to her pressure. During my childhood, when I cried or threw tantrums to go home, instead of comforting me, she scolded me to behave, to be a good boy and not make a fuss. That was her parenting style and it worked. I'd stop crying to keep her happy. But after she left, I'd sit in a corner for hours. No more, it's time she sits alone, though sadly she won't have a corner to herself. So she came to see me and I deliberately made her wait an hour. She was anxious, kept asking my grandparents about me. They said they didn't know and told her to wait in my room. When I arrived, she looked at me like, "Where were you?" I'd been waiting an hour, but said nothing, just sat there with a stern face. Someone in her position might have tried to appease me, but she stuck to her arguments, saying, "I can't sit here forever, I have things to do." I muttered, "Sure, finding a house is tough work." She glared and asked, "What's this notice about?" I replied, "It's in English, I'm sure you can read it or want me to read it for you?" She was furious, threw the notice in my face, and said she wouldn't vacate over something as petty as a notice. When she finished yelling, I said, "Then let's see the repercussions of ignoring a court order." She snapped, "I gave birth to you, don't try to outsmart me. That house is mine and my husband's and no one can kick me out." I said, "Surely a legal heir can." I responded calmly to her taunts to rile her up, and it worked. But when she called my dad her husband, I lost it. "Seriously, you dare call him your husband when you skipped his prayer ceremony saying it was history? You don't deserve his house. You're just an illegal occupant and I'll rid it of all parasites." She stood, saying she was done being nice and I'd have to deal with her lawyer. I laughed. "Go ahead, we've got 20 days, let's see what you pull." Update 2. I got the house back after much conflict. As I mentioned, I gave my mom and her family a 30-day eviction notice. She came to me trying to twist the situation, but I stopped her and she left. What followed was pure narcissism from them. Can you believe her stepdaughter Brenda came running to me, threatening to file a harassment complaint, playing her pregnancy victim card like she could do whatever because she's pregnant? I said, "Lady, pregnancy isn't a free pass." She tried intimidating my grandparents until we showed her the cameras around their house. I said, "Step foot here again and I'll have you arrested." Then my mom came to defend her precious stepdaughter, accusing me of abusing and mentally torturing pregnant Brenda, threatening to sue. I said, "Sure, let the judge decide based on the camera footage." When she couldn't vent anymore, she calmed down, started sobbing, and asked what she did wrong to raise such a selfish person, blaming herself for not raising me right. She even dragged my late dad into it, saying it was his fault for dying early and not raising me properly. I said, "Hold on, if anyone's to blame, it's you, not for raising me badly because you didn't raise me. My grandparents did and they did a great job. You should feel bad for abandoning me, but you know what? I'm glad you didn't raise me, seeing how poorly you raised your stepdaughter." I brought up her teenage pregnancy. I know I shouldn't have moralized, but in the heat of anger, I did. Naturally, she was furious. I realized I'd crossed a line, so I shut up, saying I didn't want to keep talking, just wanted my property back. I'd let them live there rent-free for years and now I needed it. I explained I'd quit my job and needed money to start my business by renting the house. She was angry I was kicking them out to let strangers live there. I said, "Those strangers will pay rent. If you pay, you can stay." She was livid that I brought money into family matters. I said, "There's no family here, you threw me out like trash and barely cared about me. My birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, you rarely showed up, and when you did, you made me feel like you were doing me a favor. What kind of mother does that? A mother like you." She tried every manipulation, emotional guilt, anger, but when she saw I wouldn't budge, she left. You'd think they vacated after that. Nope. Her useless husband Bill had to make his move. That idiot sent a voicemail. Buddy, you don't know who you're messing with. I can visit and make you beg for your life. One punch and you'll forget the house. Keep this up and I'll knock you out. He's a big guy who loves to flaunt it. I don't know much about him, but my grandparents warned me he's a bully. Sure he is, but he's a fool. He gave me evidence by threatening me in that voicemail. I didn't reply, wanting someone bigger to handle him. The police. On the eviction day, I went to the station and filed a case for threats with solid proof. My lawyer accompanied me and requested police escort for the eviction. At first, they said to call if there was trouble, but we didn't want to deal with illegal occupants ourselves. Some cash persuaded them to come along. When I arrived at the house with my lawyer, my mom, Bill, and Brenda started insulting us. Bill even came out with a hockey stick, but when he saw the police car behind us, he backed off. The officers showed the eviction notice and told them to leave. They were so sure they wouldn't go that they hadn't packed. They asked for another month. The police looked at me and I said, "No way." After their threats, they tried using Brenda's pregnancy to buy days, but I held firm and said no. I got odd looks from the police implying I was heartless, but I was following the law so no one could judge. They tried negotiating for one more day. I said, 3 hours from now. They glared bitterly. Bill even tried pleading with red eyes. The police shouted, "Move, less staring, more packing." We all left after that. The police had them turn over the keys at the station where I'd picked them up. We paid the police extra to facilitate this, but it was worth it. Who wants to deal with illegal occupants? My lawyer suggested a restraining order on the property in case they returned to harass me or the tenants, as they're capable of it. We did, and the police gave them a copy, explaining the consequences of violating it. The pettiness on their faces was clear. I got the house and put it up for rent, hoping for a good deal to start my business soon. I've had enough of those despicable people. This is likely my last update unless they mess with me again. Thanks for reading and supporting me through this. Update 3. After some time, I finally found tenants for the house. It took a while due to needed repairs, but they loved the place and signed the lease without issues. I thought I'd left all property-related problems behind, but things weren't that easy. A few days ago, my new tenants called, visibly upset, saying someone was trying to break in. At first, I thought it was a robbery attempt, but when I got there, I was unpleasantly surprised. It was Bill, my mom's husband, trying to evict the tenants to reclaim the house. When I confronted him, he got aggressive, yelling that the house was his and he had a right to live there. I tried calming things, explaining he had no rights and there was a restraining order, but he wouldn't listen. The situation was about to spiral when neighbors, alerted by the commotion, called the police. Officers arrived quickly and tried mediating, but Bill got more aggressive, insulting them. When he resisted arrest, they subdued and arrested him for violent conduct, trespassing, and violating the restraining order. It was a relief to see the law finally on my side without needing to pay. The tenants were shaken but grateful for the police intervention and could stay without further issues. I know Bill's actions are concerning, but with his charges, some with police as witnesses, he's in trouble. He won't bother for a while. Let's see if he's as tough after some time in jail with interesting cellmates. Update 4. My mom came to my grandparents to talk, lucky to find me since I found a cheap place to rent so I don't burden them anymore. With the rental income, I can afford it and invest the rest in my business. She wanted me to drop some charges against Bill, which I'm sure I won't do. I don't even know if I can, as the tenants filed most of them. The only charge I might drop is the restraining order violation, but I won't. Saying she didn't like my response is an understatement. She can't sway me. She said everything's going wrong for them and I shouldn't add more problems, but that didn't convince me. Some might say I'm too harsh, but I think I've done enough. I gave them a month to leave or pay rent, and they liked neither option. They only wanted to keep living rent-free, which wasn't happening. They did so for years, so my request is fair. As for Bill, his charges carry up to 12 years, though I doubt he'll get the maximum. Even a few months in jail with tough cellmates might humble him.